Daylight breaks over the ridge. The hounds strike. No crowds, no cameras, just a track and the hounds that bring the story to life. That's what this show's about. Dogs, dirt roads, early mornings, and the people who live it. This is Creekside Chronicles. Hounds, hunting, and heritage. I am your host, Heath Hyatt, houndsman, hunter, and a lifelong student of the outdoors. Here, we chase more than game. We chase knowledge about hounds, hunting, and living the outdoor life the right way. From bear country to back roads, this is where the hunt meets heart, and every story runs a different trail. So pull up your chair by the creek, leash up your best hound, and let's get after it together. Performance starts in the feed. Inukshuk's high-fat content fuels long runs and hard hunts, giving dogs the steady energy they need, while quality protein supports faster recovery after the work is done. That's why I trust Inukshuk dog food. Packed with energy and nutrition dogs need to go further, run harder, and recover stronger. If you want extreme performance, you can look them up at Inukshuk Professional Dog Food or CoreyNutrition.com. Welcome back to the Creekside, where we talk about everything from the woods to the water. You know the drill. If you've been listening along, grab that chair. I'll grab another stick, throw it on the fire. We'll get this episode started. First and foremost, I want to thank all of the listeners who tune in, who follow us weekly, bi-weekly, once a month, whatever you do. If you didn't do that, we wouldn't be able to have a show. So thank you for your support. It allows me to do one of the things that I love to do, and that's talk dogs. So I appreciate it. Now, when this episode drops, there's only a few days left until our August training season comes in. And if you're a bear hunter, you can feel it. It's hard to explain to someone that's never lived it. But everything around you starts whispering. It's almost time. The mornings have a little different feel. The evenings are definitely a little longer. And you catch yourself watching the tree line a little more than you do the TV. Every time you walk past the kennel, those hounds are looking back, and it's like they're asking, is it time yet? I gave mine a little sample size last weekend. But you find yourself checking the collars that you've already checked twice, charging the GPS units, making sure that the battery's full, and it already was. Looking over that dog box, making sure every latch works. If you got fans, making sure they're operational. You start organizing leads and boots and your gear. Not because you have to today, but because you know the countdown has begun. And the dogs feel it too. They don't know what day circled on the calendar, but they know something's changing. Their bark gets a little bit more excited. And I don't know if you can hear that out there right now, howling. He needs a little attitude adjustment. But their eyes start to fix on you a little bit longer every time you walk by the kennel. They know the quiet summer evenings are about to turn to dusty roads and fresh tracks.
long races, and that's what they were born to do. That makes this time of year so special. The season doesn't begin when you unsnap the lead on opening morning. It begins right now, a week ago, a month ago. But in the final few days, when preparation, anticipation, and excitement come together, what you do today will have a lot to do with how your season unfolds tomorrow. So we're going to finish up with that preseason prep. And I apologize because I probably should have started this back in the beginning of July and not the end of it. So I got my timeline a little mixed up. And I was going to air last week's episode this week and this week's episode last week. But because of scheduling and lack of time, that didn't happen. So everybody's preparing. Everybody. If your dog's been sitting in a kennel for months, got to think about it like this. Mine have. So I'm telling you on me that if they haven't been turned loose and they haven't been worked, they're going to lose endurance. Just like an athlete that quits training. I'll give you a great example of this. Back in June, went to Alaska for 10 days, but I was away from the gym for pretty much 2 weeks. First day back, go back on a Monday, and we go right into squats for our strength training. And holy moly, I about pulled a Hemi. I tried to start off where I left out. Now listen, 2 weeks, that's it, 2 weeks. Our dogs, my dogs, have been up since the first week of January. Other than running around in the yard when I'm mowing or doing yard work a couple at a time. We've talked about it. You've heard about it. You know what I'm doing. So when you stop, you can't just flip a light switch and go right back at it. You know, the first weekend, and think about it this way. Dumping them on a long race on the first weekend, yeah, is not recommended. And I know we do it because we only have so many days to run. But that one hard race won't build fitness. It usually just exposes everything that we weren't prepared for. Injuries, pulled muscles, sore feet, dehydration, exhaustion. The list goes on and on and on. And often it comes from us rushing the process. Burnout. Well, what do you mean burnout? Overdoing it early, especially in the younger dogs. You know, it takes mental and physical toughness to do what we're asking them to do, and they lose enthusiasm. Like, you know, if you dump them on a couple hard races right out of the gate and they get run down and they're not catching, it usually does take a little out of them. It's just like you when you go fishing. If you went fishing 2 or 3 days in a row and you didn't catch anything, by the fourth day, you're trying to talk yourself out of going fishing. But if you're hard-headed like me, you go fishing anyway. And hopefully that day gets better. But dogs don't have an ability to rationalize like we do, right? They don't have the ability to talk themselves into those things. So it's always best to slowly condition your dogs, and it is better than just doing hard conditioning right out of the gate. Consistency builds stronger dogs than those occasional all-out workouts, right? If I went to the gym and I just went once a week and just went as hard as I could go for that 30 minutes, 45 minutes, whatever it is, like it's not going to get me where I need to go. I got to have consistency. So I have seen it happen, and somewhere down the line, it's probably happened with me where, you know, I've turned dogs out and not paid attention, and I've probably set those dogs back during that time. So you've heard me say it before, like the first week sometimes the first 2 weeks, I'm more interested in conditioning my dogs. If I get to put them in on a race, wonderful. It's wonderful, great. But if not, if it gets up in the morning and I haven't struck anything or haven't had an opportunity to get them out, I'm putting my dogs out in front of the truck and I'm doing just a little bit of roading. And I'm doing slowly. I'm slow rolling this. I'm not running 10, 15 miles an hour down the road and burning their pads out, because that will happen if you pay attention. If you've actually done it, I know you've seen it before. So the first couple of weeks, like I said, the first week pretty much, and then the second week, hopefully I start getting on some races. But I'm not upset if I don't get on a couple races right out of the gate, because I know my dogs aren't where they should be. I know that I need to spend a little time, you know, working the soreness. Like the first day or so, they're going to be sore, and you give them a day off, and then you bring them back and you run them a little bit more, and by the end of the seventh, eighth day, you're making progress. So try to go slowly. Roding, that's great for endurance, and you can actually control the speed. Walking, like I said, I have my dogs out in the yard and they're running around. If you have the opportunity to swim, swimming is a great exercise, especially in the summer. Take them in the evenings or early in the morning. That is a great time to let them swim, and swimming is a great exercise, and it actually better because you're getting that in you're getting your cardiovascular exercise in without pounding their feet to death, right? Heel work. I do have a pretty good heel up here behind the house, and if I had a four-wheeler or a side-by-side, that's on my to-do list. It's just not right now, but if I had something where I could run them up to the top of the ridge and then back, and then run them up to the top of the ridge and back, that's something I do. Heel work's always good, and you want to increase that distance gradually, a little at a time. Talked about weight management. You heard me saying that I've got all my dogs cut back to under 2 cups because it's harder to get that weight off of them when you get it on them. So I'm trying to maintain it. I'm trying to manage the weight. And when this podcast drops, be on a Wednesday. So we'll have Thursday, Friday, Saturday. So I will start preloading my dogs. And if you haven't heard me say that, that's when I will up their food to take the shock of what's getting ready to happen. Because if they get out the first day and they end up on a hard race, and I've just maintained that weight, they're going to need that extra calories. Remember, it's 8 calories per 50 pounds is what you're looking at. For every mile, you're burning 8 calories per pound. So I think that's right. I'd have to look that up again, but I'm pretty much telling you that's right. So if you're feeding, good food, it's going to help support your conditioning, because your exercise is going to create that extra calorie burn. So just like your hunting does. And just like humans, dogs going to earn their fitness through that consistency. They're going to be sore. They are going to have time to recoup. So if you go to the gym or you do some type of exercise, whatever your choice is, for 3 days, and you're coming right out of the gate from doing nothing to 3 days of exercise, you're going to be sore. And the fourth day, you're probably going to dial it back a little bit. And then maybe by the fifth day, you can go back to normal, and then you can start ramping it up. So just remember how the dogs are the same as us. I know the first one I did on the prep, we talked about making sure you have your flea and tick stuff ready to go or already implemented. Like I said, I give mine a couple days before I took my trip, so it was in their system. I've done that with all of my dogs, so they're good to go. But one of the things that I always do it, and maybe I just overlook it because it's a common practice. But trimming their nails. If your dogs are out, and depending on what kind of kennel surface you have, whether it's gravels, whether it's dirt, whether it's concrete, whether it's you know decking, whatever it may be, I've trimmed all my dog's nails. In fact, yesterday I was going back and double checking some of them that I'd already trimmed. So I think people overlook that. I think we overlook that part of it. But I try to keep my I start a month. I try to start a month ahead of time. That way I can do a little bit at a time, and I'm not trying to cut it down almost to the quick right out of the gate. Because if you do that, and that nail doesn't have time to kind of heal itself back over, they're gonna get sore on the end of the nails, and it could get down into the quick. Checking between the toes, making sure there's no injuries and stuff. That's just something I do. Pad conditioning. I use several things, but I feel like just getting them up on their feet and moving in different type of surfaces is the best. I will say that a 5-minute fix today is going to save weeks of recovery time. So don't neglect that, especially your first couple of days of running. You want to check those pads and toes and in between the toes, and go ahead and do your maintenance work now. That way your dog's not out for a couple of weeks or whatever. Because we know that a bear dog with sore feet's just a spectator. That's all it is. He ain't gonna be able to keep up. Heat management. If you guys go back to July 30th of last year, about the same time as last year, I did a podcast with Garrett Bailey, and we talked about heat exposure. It's a great podcast. Go back and listen to it. It's got all the need to know in it about the heat. And Garrett and I actually had this conversation yesterday. So if you take your temperature, 75, and humidity, 75, you're at 150. That is dangerous levels for an unconditioned dog. Even for a conditioned dog, you're running in the red. So if you'll take the humidity and the temperature, add them together, and if it's above 150 or 150 or above, you really should consider how important it is that you get that hunting in that on that day, because you're in the red zone. Like you're teetering with danger. Okay, anything below that is workable. And once your dog's get conditioning in, that's something that you can kind of work with. It's not, like I said, it's still red, but it's not I don't know. We're just going to leave it at red. When you get to 150, you're in red. Just know that. But one thing that I like is, I mean, heat during the summertime is a one of our biggest dangers that we deal with, especially during this time of year for us. And you should not start hydrating your dogs after the workouts. It should be before. You should make sure that they have plenty in their system before the workout, not trying to catch up after the workout. I can't say enough about the Dogs Are Treed, the premix uh, of glycerol. I use it religiously. I have a bottle in my truck. I have a bottle in the basement. I am mixing it. I am giving the dogs an opportunity to drink it before every hunt. And if I notice that my dogs are not, I'm baiting the water, which means I'm giving it some type of flavor to entice them. And I've even went an extra step and made it into ice cubes. Dogs love to crunch. We heard this from Arlie Reynolds when he done the podcast cast years ago. I've even taken that a step further to give the dogs ice cubes with it in there. They can chew on a couple of them, and they're getting it in their system. But you can go to Dogs Are Treat and get that. it is to me, it is a game changer. I do not have heat issues with my dogs, but I need to add a caveat in there. I am the type of person that if it gets to a certain temperature, I am catching dogs off. I'm not gonna that catching that animal that day is not the most important thing to me. It's getting the dogs exercise and making sure my dogs are healthy and good to go. So if it becomes to that temperature level, I am cutting dogs off. So that's something that I do, and I don't turn my dogs loose after a certain point either. So, but I do feel like the glycerol is a huge contributor to that. If you're going to train in those extreme temperatures, early mornings, even though the humidity level can be really high, we all know that cooler temperatures reduces stress and improves recovery time. We know that. And you've got to be able to recognize overheating. You've got to catch it early so that the dog doesn't have any problems. Red gums are a big indicator that the dog is getting dangerously hot. Weakness, we've seen it before. The dog's rear end will kind of start to, fishtail around, stumbling, stopping immediately, and then just kind of like flopping down. Those things you should be taking precaution and be looking for. A little bit of confusion, just disoriented. If they're at that point, you're probably looking at an emergency. And if we're going to cool the dogs down, right, move them to shade. We do not want to drench them in water. Okay. We want to focus on the paws and the belly. We want to gradually cool them, put them in the front seat, turn the air conditioner on. You can lay them on top of the box and ride down the road, get that air flowing. A lot of different things to do. Do not cram them in the box with a bunch of other dogs that are just steaming. There are some things to do that. We've all know that if you put them in the water, you're basically causing a thermal blanket. So be very cautious of that. And do a little bit of research and studying and whatever so you can recognize those early symptoms and prevent anything from happening to your dog. Moving on to equipment. We talked about that the other day. I made sure all my stuff was updated. I've checked all my batteries. I even go over my straps and my buckles and stuff to make sure that they don't have wear and tear on them, or they're not getting weak in certain points. I put extra antennas in my tracking bag. That way, if your young dogs chew them, and that drives me absolutely ballistic. If the young dogs chew them up, or the dogs getting up, if you have the dogs in the box too long. I mean, people make fun of me. I don't put my collars on when I leave the house. I travel to where I'm going to hunt. I let my dogs out to clean out. I put collars on them. And when I'm done hunting, I take my collars off. And then I travel home because I hate having to replace antennas. It's just aggravating for me. I don't like it. So carry a couple extra antennas. It doesn't hurt to carry an extra antenna for your alpha. Make sure you got all that stuff up and working. Make sure you're carrying water in your truck. I see a lot of people with the water boxes, the tanks on their truck. Clean them out. Make sure that they're clean. They've been sitting all summer. Make sure they're not rusted or whatever. Make sure they're clean. Fill them up with good cool water. First aid kit. I will drop a reel maybe next week on my first aid kit. I'll kind of go through it. If you don't have a first aid kit, I just talked to Buddy this past week, and they just got a shipment of them in, so you can actually go buy a first aid kit from W Supply. It's already there. Everything's in it that you need. It's a quick way to get started if that's what you're doing. They're pretty inexpensive. So mine's in shambles right now where took it on my trip, so I need to come in. When I get it cleaned up and get it reorganized, I'll actually do a reel, and I'll drop a reel so you can see what I'm using. But like I said, W does have them in stock. I literally just talked to Buddy about it. And I was at the Virginia Bear Hunter Association meeting yesterday in the great Thompson Valley in Tazewell, and they actually give one away. And the guy that won it was pretty tickled with it. So if you need something, right there you go. You can get it pretty quickly. You want to check your dog boxes. Make sure you don't have anything going to cut you, stick you, poke the dogs. Make sure your latches work and they're not rusted or bent from just throwing it off your truck or whatever last year. A little WD-40 here and there. Make sure you got good ventilation. That's important this time of year. If you're looking at your leads, how many times have we tied a dog up at a tree and the leads snap? Check your leads over. I mean, last year you're using them and you're tying dogs up and you're dragging bear out with them. Just go over your leads and make sure there's no weak points. Make sure your clips, you know how those clips sometimes will stick or sometimes they'll actually bend, and then a dog goes running off and we start yelling and screaming. And just check over your stuff. It takes 5 minutes just to check over it. Any gear that you have that is worn or whatever, that check it out before it fails in the woods. I mean, that's, like I said, take an evening this week and just go over your equipment. I carry a chest rig, and I do know that I keep my Alpha 300 on a carabiner, and I hook it to my chest rig. Well, last year during December, where I flip that thing up and I twist it a lot, the little strap from the carabiner to the handheld actually had a tear in it, and I caught it. Thank goodness. Or I could have dropped my handheld somewhere and maybe not been able to find it. So that stuff does happen. Just check over your stuff. Make sure it's good to go. So just kind of recap it. You want to make sure that you don't send your dogs out of the gate slow and steady. Slow and steady wins a race, right? Give them a break. Give them time to recoup if they need it. Make sure you're watching your temperatures. Add your temperature, add your humidity. If it equals 150, stop. Just stop. Make sure you got plenty of hydration. Make sure your dogs are hydrated before you turn them loose. I will say that I do use the maltodextrin post hunt. I've got two mixes. I've got pre-hunt and post-hunt. I use the glycerol mixture pre-hunt, and I use the maltodextrin post-hunt. I mix it myself. I bought a 50-pound bag at Sam's or Costco. I don't remember. I got it somewhere, and I've got enough to last me for years. So I literally mix it. It basically puts the carbohydrates back into the dog system. So you can do that too. But make sure you understand the early signs of heat stress and get on top of it. Make sure that you're not letting your dogs overheat. Check your equipment. Simple, right? And what about you? What about preparing yourself? Have you checked your boots? Have you been to the gym? Been on the treadmill? Take some walks after supper with your wife. Try to get yourself physically ready. Because if not, a lot of times when you're tired, you make poor decisions. Do you carry rain gear with you? I know I always stick one in my truck. I am a fair weather hunter. I have to say that. I'll get out in the rain if I have to, but it's not on my to-do list. And one of the things we talked about yesterday, one of the preseason things that we should be doing is going and talking to the neighbors, talking to the people around where we hunt and building relationships. Are you getting permission? Hey, Season's coming in. We're hunting in this area. I just like to put a name with a face. My name is Heath. My dogs may come through here. I don't know that they will, but if they do, I'll get them and I'll get out of your hair, and we won't cause no problem. And I appreciate it. We need to do more of that. We spend time riding through the mountains and scouting and, driving the back roads. Stop and talk to people. Shake your hands, smile, and tell them who you are and what you're doing. I just don't think we do that enough. And that's something I've got to do better with myself. Hunt smarter, not harder. That preparation is going to help you reduce mistakes, and it's going to keep everybody happier, safer, and it's going to keep them in the race. I promise you. Great seasons aren't accidental. They're going to be built one day at a time before the first turnout. The little things you do now, conditioning, check your equipment, pay attention to your dogs, they're very, very often, they're going to determine whether your season is memorable for the right reasons. And I would encourage you to start today. Stay consistent and enjoy the process of getting both you and your hounds ready for the woods, because that is what all the excitement's about. That's going to be a wrap for this week's episode of Creekside Chronicles. We appreciate you spending your time with us, whether you're in the truck, in the woods, or sitting by the creek just listening along. Thank you for walking this trail with us. And we got to say thank you to W Supply for hosting the podcast and supporting everything we do. Be sure to check them out and go to wsupply.com for all your hound hunting needs. Until next time, keep your dogs fed right, those leads tight, boots muddy, and we'll see you at the tree.
Tailgate drops before the light, coolers packed and the rig sitting right, tracking collars charged, beeping green, boots in the bed and the rifle's clean. Dog box rattling, engines hum, we're chasing bear till the day is done. Old ring barking like he knows what's near, nose to the wind, tail full of cheer. From the Virginia mountains to the Carolina clay, we're burning fuel and miles each day. Every turn's another tale, through mountain mist and paper trails. We see the sunset red in Tennessee, rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York forest, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Rest stops few, the roads are long, but the fire in our hearts still burns strong. Wisconsin mornings cutting crisp and clear, Canada's wildwoods drawing near. Still got states we ain't run, but that hound dog fever won't let us quit. We see the sunset red in Tennessee, rise through the fog in old WV. North Carolina's pines echo loud with the cry of a hard-run hound. New York frost, Maine's deep snow, Vermont valleys where the black bears go. Truck keeps rolling, wheels don't care. We're chasing daylight, chasing bear. Gas station coffee, Alpha XL on the dash. Another back road, another bear track. Friends made fast and stories told slow, Under stars where only hunters go, we see the sunrise gold in Canadian air. And it sets on a trail down in Appalachia. Packing steel and leather, grit and care, we're built for the road and chasing bears. So load the dogs and slam the gate. There's a trail ahead, we won't be late. From dawn to dusk, we're always there. Chasing daylight, chasing them bears.